Hello. Well, thank you so much, Justin, for that brief introduction. And thank you to everyone who is joining us today to discuss investing in the vision of the Stellar Community Fund. I'm Anke, Community and Events Manager of the Stellar Development Foundation. And as part of the ecosystem team, I work on all sorts of initiatives surrounding education and development of blockchain and Stellar for young individuals and startups. And most relevant to this conversation, the Stellar Community Fund, or SCF for short. So has anyone in the audience ever heard of SCF? Give it up in the chat. Well, if this is the first time you're hearing about it, I'll briefly describe it. So the SCF is an open application grant program that gives people all over the world a chance to kickstart and grow their Stellar-based projects and connect to the thriving Stellar community. So developers and entrepreneurs all across the globe can receive instant traction in the Stellar ecosystem and earn funding for their Stellar-based projects, ranging from a few thousand for hackathon-style project to over like $2,000 worth of XLM for full-fledged companies. So far, the fund and its predecessor have awarded more than 350 submitters with over 100 million XLM based on the input of over 1,000 involved community members. And these numbers are growing every day. So, without further ado, today, I'm thrilled to be joined by 3 panelists, each of whom have won the Stellar Community Fund earlier this year for their outstanding and unique Stellar-based companies. So first up, Fred Rezeau, founder at Lightmint, Tori, CTO and co-founder at Leaf Global Fintech, and Markus Paulson-Luna, co-founder at Script3. So like the theme of Meridian, each of you are building locally, but impact globally. And so, before we kind of dive into specifics, it would be great if you could each briefly introduce your companies to the audience for anyone who is not already familiar, starting with Fred. Fred, you gotta unmute yourself. Oh, you're still muted. Yes, I think you're good.
Is it working now?
Yes, perfect. Well, thank you.
Sorry about this. Yeah, so very glad to be here, and thanks very much for this opportunity. I'm Fred from Lightmint. Lightmint is a gaming platform and also an NFT marketplace that is built on Stellar. So the NFT marketplace was launched earlier this year. It receives a very strong organic interest. We have over 1,000 stores and also 160 verified NFTs artists. And if you're interested in seeing the impact that this had, you can go and check the live show that we had with Sam Connor and 3 artists. I really recommend you watch it because the artists are explaining here how Lightmint and Stellar NFTs have changed their lives. And that's exactly this, leveraging decentralized business models for gaming and NFTs with the power of Stellars and fast and cheap transactions, and we can create a global impact.
Thank you so much, Fred, for that brief introduction. Let's hear Tori, brief introduction.
Hi, everyone. Tori Samples from Leaf Global Fintech. Leaf is a digital wallet that helps mostly refugees, migrants, and cross-border traders to safely store and move their money across borders. We're focused on East Africa to start. We're in Rwanda, Uganda, and Kenya today, and quickly expanding across the world. Of course, built on Stellar, but really focused on making blockchain-based services accessible for people who don't have access to devices or connectivity or high-tech anything. And so we're built on Stellar. We have a mobile app for smartphones, but we also have a non-smartphone app that about 90% of our transactions come through. So we're really excited to be here interacting with the community and to see how we can expand our footprint and everyone else's through Stellar in the coming years.
Awesome, that's great. Markus, I'd love to hear a bit about you.
Hey, I'm Markus from Script3. We are building the first DeFi protocol on Stellar using Stellar Turret smart contracts. It's called Yield Blocks, and it does is a decentralized on-chain money market. So it allows you to lend, borrow, stake directly on the Stellar blockchain in a trust-free way. And the goal is to add a lot more capital efficiency and liquidity and capital stickiness to the Stellar ecosystem. You can check us out at YieldBlocks. We've got a Discord called Script3, and then you can also check us out at script3.io.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for briefly introducing. I would love to know more. So, a bit about yourself, also about the impact of your work and your projects today. So the theme for Meridian is build locally, impact globally. Could you share a bit about where your projects are today and what impact you're seeing them have in the world? Feel free to start, Markus.
Yeah, for sure. So currently we're about a month-ish out of actually launching our product. We've had a live beta so far that attracted a really, really large amount of interest. I think of all of the users that were registered it was a closed beta. So of all the users that were registered, about 70% heavily participated in actually using the app. The idea for impacting globally and the design there is we want to serve as a financial services backend for a lot of the non-custodial platforms building on Stellar. Because Stellar as a blockchain is probably the best blockchain for building fintech platforms. It's really easy to build a wallet front end and create financial services for people around the globe, a lot like what Tori's doing. So it's a very powerful tool in that respect. But a lot of these wallets, since they're non-custodial, it's hard for them to have strong revenue models or offer financial services beyond trading and payments. So when you add DeFi to that equation with something like YieldBlocks, we can all of a sudden offer lending and borrowing to all of the users of these apps without having to add any trust requirements. So that's the whole impact globally idea there. We think it's a really powerful combination of tools, utilizing the smart contracts from the Stellar turrets and then our DeFi protocols and the Stellar network. And we're excited to see where it goes.
Great. Fred, would you be able to share a bit about your work and the impact you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, so like I was saying in the introduction, we launched the NFT marketplace in earlier this year in May, and definitely, we have seen a very strong organic growth. I think there was a lot of artists that were left at the door of the NFT world, for example, because of the high fees and Stellar is solving that, right? Because we have fast transactions, but very cheap fees. And so it's a very inclusive world, a very welcoming world for them. We had this show and with Sam Connor, I really think that you should all look at it. It's beautiful. You see the artists really explaining how Stellar has changed their lives. And so we have this, and we also have an activity with gaming. So we have 100,000 players as well that with the release of our game last year. So all this all together shows that Stellar is really very versatile technology where you can empower a lot of experiences that are not necessarily the most immediate that we can think about, but definitely the power of versatility on Stellar.
Yeah, I love that you say like also NFTs on Stellar. I feel like it was previously before you wasn't really explored that well, and now like really like listening and hearing from your users that it has opened so many possibilities. That's great to hear. Tori, can you share a bit about where Leaf Global Fintech is today and kind of what impact you're seeing so far?
Sure. Well, we love the theme of build locally and impact globally. That's exactly what we do at Leaf. We've got most of our team actually in the markets that we serve. So most of our staff is from East Africa. We're not bound to East Africa by any means. We're really excited to expand into other markets such as the Middle East and Latin America, anywhere where you have people who have challenges of moving money across borders conveniently and affordably. So we're excited to do that. For us, that means using the impact of Stellar, but usually behind the scenes. Most of our customers are never going to know that there's a blockchain powering the engine that is Leaf. They don't need to know anything about crypto. We use our own stable coins to represent local currencies so that that impact can be expanded without having to educate and change our users' behavior in a way that would limit their ability to access services. So really excited, again, about the potential to expand, but to do it in a way that meets our users where they are.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear. Like, I love that you're opening up, well, that Leaf Global is opening up these opportunities, right, for users that never had these opportunities before. So yeah, great to hear a bit about your users. I think like Markus, also like coming back to Script 3, like I would love to know a bit about your users as well. Like, who are you? Who are they? Where are they? Kind of, and what feedback have you received from them, like after the solutions you've built?
Yeah, absolutely. So our users are entirely global. We actually have seen a lot of interest and engagement from countries in Southeast Asia, as well as obviously the US, but really it's been from all over. And a big part of that is the fact that we're creating financial products and financial services for investing and saving that are completely borderless and permissionless. So anybody can go and open basically an interest-bearing account using yield blocks without having to worry about KYC or registering for a service or having to trust the organization that they are registering with. So we're seeing a lot of really good feedback from a lot of the users that are from developing countries that maybe don't have as much strong access to financial services. A large portion of them participated in our beta, and they're really, really excited about being able to use the assets that they already store on the Stellar ledger to also gain interest on and create a financial future with. We've heard some really interesting stories. I didn't actually realize how globalized Stellar is as a real like source of commerce. I knew it had a huge usage and it was used globally, but I remember talking to someone in our Discord server and they were telling me about how they had used Stellar to buy a bag of rice from someone like 2 days ago. And I was like, wow, I didn't know that people were actually using it this way. So I'm hearing stories like this, and then I'm hearing these same people say that they're really excited to be able to deposit their lumens in yield blocks so that they can earn interest and continue to grow financial backing and a saving solution. And I'm really excited for what it's going to enable from a global standpoint in the Stellar ecosystem.
Wow, that's really powerful. Wow, bag of rice. I mean, this really shows that, you know, you can use Stellar for even, I guess, the smallest of transactions, and it can streamline something. That's great to hear, and also like great to hear that, you know, your users are able to use your products to really like access all of us, I guess, Stellar's features. So yeah, so, you know, like going back kind of to the SCF, so we're super excited to have each of your companies funded and supported by the Stellar community. And so I'd love to know a little bit about what your experience was. So Tori, you've presented Leaf Global Fintech for the first time to the Stellar community this spring, but you've been like fundraising and building on Stellar for a while now. So what was participating in the SCF like, and how is it different from other fundraising programs you've been involved in?
Sure. Well, participating in SCF was some of the easiest funding that we've received from an administrative standpoint, but also some of the highest stakes funding, because you're putting your technology out there for the developer community and the entire Stellar ecosystem. The applications are voted on by the developers and by the community, and so the process leaves very little room for BS. So honestly, the validation that came with winning SCF funding is more personally meaningful in some ways than some of the other VC or grant funding that we've received. The flexibility of the funding is also incredibly important. Because it's not restricted, we've been able to use the funding to build things that we otherwise wouldn't have. And I'm happy to elaborate on that in a bit. But I think that going through that process was worth every bit of the time and has allowed us to do so much since then.
Well, that's great. That's great to hear. I love that. It's also like, you know, to hear that it's quite like easy to get started, but also comes with its own set of of challenges, like you come into this whole different world of like you have to prove to the community that your company's worth instead of maybe like an investor, right? So yeah, okay, well, great. And so also Markus, like Leaf, Script 3 was able to launch before the community's eyes during the SCF round last spring as well. So why did you choose to submit Script 3 to the SCF, and what were you able to accomplish through the funding?
Yeah, definitely. So we're a DeFi company that's building DeFi protocols on Stellar. That's a very rare and kind of unheard of thing because you haven't actually been able to do that ever until like pretty much now because Stellar Tourist didn't exist. So we knew that DeFi was going to be really valuable on Stellar for all of the reasons that we discussed in terms of capital efficiency and capital stickiness and making money in Stellar productive. But we also knew that we knew the community would see this and the community was going to be excited about this. But we also knew that it was going to take a ridiculous amount of time to pitch this to VCs and go the more traditional DeFi funding route. Because one, Stellar isn't exactly the new kid on the block when it comes to a blockchain. It's been around for a while. It's a really powerful piece of technology that still has a long ways to go and huge amounts of room to grow in. But a lot of VC firms are more excited about funding DeFi companies that are building on like whatever the hot new blockchain is, because they know they can get an instant multiple, right? So by taking this project, Script 3 and yield blocks and option blocks to the Stellar community, we could get instant feedback and I guess input and interest from our goal user base. And we could also vet that it was really a valuable product that we were offering here. And then on top of that, because the community went ahead and they saw the value, they were willing to fund us, whereas someone that wasn't necessarily involved in the Stellar ecosystem, like, I don't know, a VC that doesn't know anything about Stellar, it would have been a much harder pitch. So it was a really good source of funding for us that aligned our interests with the communities really well, and that made it way easier to actually get the funding. But on top of that, as for what we've actually managed to accomplish with the funding, it's been really instrumental for us. I don't think we could have really launched without it. We all are just out of college and don't really have a huge bank of capital to work with or a capital cushion. So to take this actually full time, we needed some sort of nest egg to really start the business. So after we got the Stellar seed fund or community fund funding, we were all able to actually quit our jobs and go full time and put the pedal to the metal and build everything as fast as possible. And now we're at a point where we're ready to launch, and we're looking at the road forward and raising more money and turning this into a real long-term business and real long-term decentralized protocol. So I guess the answer to what have we accomplished with the money is literally everything.
That's great to hear. Like, I love that, because especially like, what you're saying, it's difficult to get funding if you're building on blockchain, and a lot of VCs may not know about it. So, well, I'm so excited and very happy that Script 3 was able to be funded by the Stellar community in that sense. So now over to Fred. So Fred, you've been involved with the community for quite some time, and you've also submitted to the SCF a few times as well. So, I would love to know a bit about your experience and kind of like what effect the SCF had for Lightmint or has for Lightmint.
Yeah, I mean, to us, submitting the project to SCF, and I'm talking actually about the first time we did in 2019, even if we did not win that time, it's just been invaluable because I remember Stellar came back to us, you came back to us, and we talked about the Stellar Meridian conference in Mexico. And, if we could come, we would have the opportunity to present the project, meet Stellar, the ecosystem, and the community as well. And, that's what we did. And the experience has just been amazing. We've grown, and yeah, I think we've definitely grown with the community, with Stellar. The project also with the feedback, we could improve the project, and then after resubmitting it by the end of 2019 and this year, we met a lot more success, right? So clearly, that's what I like to say. It's like Lightmint would not be what it is now without the SCF and without the community and the Stellar interaction and feedback.
Yeah, well, that's great to know. I love that, your companies have been able to grow so much through this fund, and really, like, I'm very happy it exists. So, and also your hard work to actually grow. So, in terms of like opportunities, Fred, like what unique opportunities, like kind of like that you didn't expect, that the SCF provide?
Yeah, I mean, first, I think that the most important opportunity is like Markus was saying, it's very hard to unlock funding for very specific projects when you don't already have like connections with the VC world, the money world. Especially when you're innovating in crypto. So for example, crypto plus gaming, especially when we started the project in 2018, it had very bad connotations, right? So, it's being able to talk to people who know the tech and understand what we are doing, and being able to submit the project to this type of funding, it's like basically something that without which we could not do anything, right? So the Stellar Community Fund has been a major opportunity for us. And I think now with this kind of funding that we've unlocked, we'll be able to get a more permanent team, because, so far, we've been traveling very light. So that means basically to bridge a skill gap, we get contractors, but at some point we need continuity. And if I take the example, for example, of a community manager, which is what we are hiring at the moment, and you know this very well, we need deep understanding and of the business and of the community needs. So that's not something we can do like just for a couple of days, and that's something that the SCF now is allowing us to do.
That's great. Well, that's great to hear about that opportunity. Yeah, I know, community member, this is a full-time job. Well, yeah, this is great to hear. Also, like, I wanted to go back to Tori. So what unique opportunities has the FCF given you?
Yeah, so I mentioned the flexibility of the funding and that allowing us to build things that we wouldn't have otherwise. And the biggest of those that we are unveiling here at Meridian, literally right now, is a new way for Leaf's refugee customers to earn money through impact art. Because of the SCF funding and the relationships formed through it, we are announcing Leaf's entry into selling NFTs on Lightmint, created by our refugee customers. We've got a small collection so far, but everything is for sale on Leaf's profile, and we're really interested to see if this is a feasible way to bring together people from around the world and to support our customers. So when you buy these pieces, you are directly supporting African refugees, and they'll receive the money in their Leaf wallet in our stablecoins. And while this definitely isn't the core of our business, we notice that many customers just need a boost, some initial funding in order for them to become more financially stable or start a business or support their families. And the nice thing is that as the Stellar ecosystem grows, we don't even have to move outside of the network in order to do that and to support the full spectrum of our customers' financial needs. So we're excited to pioneer this space of impact art within the world of NFTs and tie together people's creativity and their financial transactions and potentially a desire to do good in the world. So shout out to Fred and his team for creating such an amazing platform, and to SCF for providing the funding to do something that we wouldn't have otherwise, and just allowing us the flexibility to experiment. And definitely go check out Lightmint.
Wow, I love this like cross project and SCF collaboration. Yeah. Fred, do you have anything you want to say about this?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the collection. Tori sent me the link yesterday, and really is great. We're definitely going to retweet and make a lot of noise about it. So I think, yeah, it's beautiful, and yeah, congrats.
Awesome. Like, I really love this, like that, we have different participants in the Stellar community that can work together, right? And that's really like why we are such a strong community and growing as well. So this is great, and definitely check out this collection. Maybe like someone can drop a link or something in the chat. So Thanks so much for your insights. It's so great to hear that the SCF has been valuable and provided unique opportunities to grow your businesses. Now, I'd like to shift the conversation a bit more towards the future of SCF. So for those who know here in the audience and who are in the community and in the Stellar Community Fund, community funding is not an easy thing to get right. And so based on community feedback, we iterate the structure and optimize the process after a few rounds to try to meet the needs of the Stellar community. So I'd like to hear from the panelists here as well, as they've been around for a while, kind of like what were some of the challenges you had during the last few rounds of SCF, like either as a submitter or as a voter, and kind of like what would you like to see differently to that really meets the needs of the Stellar community? Markus, feel free to go first.
Yeah, I think in terms of challenges, the biggest one we had was making effective noise about what we were doing, because we knew that what we were doing was really cool, and there were going to be people in the Stellar community and in the judging panel that would be really excited about the idea of DeFi on Stellar, but we didn't know who those people were, and we didn't know how to get in front of them, and we didn't know who to talk to about it. So I think that one thing that I would love to see in the future for the Stellar Community Fund is having like subsections of panelists, because right now we have a huge board of like I don't know how many there are, but there are many panelists / judges, and you don't really know what they consider themselves experts in and what kind of projects they're going to have the best feedback on. So if they really like even just labels under the panelists' names, that would be very helpful for new projects. But overall, like, I really like the Stellar Community Fund. I was thinking about this today, but I think it's honestly more decentralized than most DAO funding organizations out there. I didn't realize how incredibly decentralized it was until I got involved in it from the panelist side of things. Almost anybody in the community can apply to be a panelist. They all have equal amount of input in project decisions, and they all have a place to discuss all the projects and with each other. So it's actually set up very well. So I think the only thing that I would like to see improved is maybe a little bit more structure when it comes to areas of expertise, because there are so many different types of projects that it could get submitted to the SCF. There's wallets, there's payment platforms, there's gaming ideas, there's DeFi projects, there's SDKs, and not every panelist should be looking at every one of those different solutions, because they'll be better at evaluating specific ones.
That's great feedback. Yeah, I think like, in previous conversations with the community, like this also came up, and I think like, I'm writing it down as you say, because it's just like, just so I don't forget. So definitely like, like in further, and also like to the Stellar community, if you think this as well and want to give input, definitely join our Discord. But just to move on with this conversation, I would also love to hear a bit from your end, Tori. What are your thoughts? Kind of like, what are some of the challenges you had, and what would you like to see differently?
Yeah, and I love the dedication to improvement. I mean, that's great. But I think for us, again, the process is pretty self-explanatory. We struggled, I think, with explaining the breadth of our product, because our user base does not tend to overlap with the Stellar community. So going through that process and showcasing the depth of our technology that is made to look exceptionally simple was really challenging. We value meeting our users where they are, as I said, and that means literally, but also with product design. And so taking something that was built for people who are potentially using their first app ever and showcasing how this is, advanced in, advancing Stellar's mission and the technology itself to the community is really difficult. I know that there's a section where it talks about allowing the Stellar community to get involved, and that made me really anxious and self-conscious, because we don't have a Discord or a Telegram group where our users already congregate. There's not overlap there. And so I was anxious about, is the community going to think that we're actually doing anything out in the world, because we don't have the typical channels and presence that a blockchain-based company would. And so I'm thankful that, we were able to overcome that hurdle. But I do think that for something that is a bit outside of the norm for the community, there's a hurdle that has to be overcome there in explaining why this is so impactful, both on the tech side and the market side.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, especially when your user audience is very different from Stellar Community Fund. I'd like to actually hear a bit more about Fred, also into what Tori said. Okay, I hope you cannot hear the construction. But anyway, to what Tori said, basically, kind of what were some of the challenges you've seen since you've been on for several rounds? And also more in response to Tori, how do you think we could promote community involvement to include communities, maybe not even only the Stellar community?
Yeah, I mean, to me, same. I would say the major problem I've seen is the lack of visibility. So it's really something that is concerning. That when you submit the project, you really want the project to get enough visibility to make sure that the panel of jury take enough time to read what you prepare. So that I think is very important. But since 2019, I've seen the process has evolved a lot. It became a lot fairer and better at selecting the deserving project. So I think at the end, what you were saying on Discord, we are in this together, and that's the way forward. And I think that is very important, because instead of having this kind of competitive spirit, we could all just work together to make sure that the right projects are selected, and then we can grow the ecosystem this way.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for that insight. That was super, super interesting as well. This feedback is really crucial to ensure that we can create, I'm not saying just we as SDF, but really the Stellar community at large can create a fund that works for the community, by the community, and can grow according to its needs. So right now, actually, developers and entrepreneurs worldwide have until the 21st of November, that's actually the end of this Sunday, to submit their Stellar-based project to the 9th round of the Stellar Community Fund. So if you are in the audience and you're planning to submit to the SCF or just want to learn a bit more, highly recommend asking some questions to our panelists here who are seasoned submitters and voters. So to submit your question, please use the Q&A tab next to this stream. So let me take a look at our questions. Okay, yeah, this is a good one. I'm planning to submit my project to the SCF. Is there anything in particular you recommend I should think about when polishing my submission? Whoever wants to go first.
I can take that one, or at least I have thoughts on it. I think one thing that I often see missed in Stellar Community Fund submissions is a really well thought out analysis of how what you're building is going to impact Stellar and further the Stellar community's mission to improve equitable economic access. I often just see projects not even talk about how their project benefits Stellar at all, or even why it's built on Stellar. So I think both of those things are probably mandatory for you to talk about. Otherwise, if you're not benefiting the Stellar ecosystem in any way, and there's no reason for you to build on Stellar, why are you applying for the Stellar Community Fund? So yeah, I just say definitely talk about those two things in your submission.
Awesome. And I guess Tori, from Emmanuel, what tips do you all have for someone submitting an application to SDF for funding? I guess to the SDF. I guess similar question.
Sure. So I think the thing to keep in mind is your audience. Just remember that you are writing to people who know Stellar really well. So that's an opportunity. There's a way for you to get value out of this, even if you're not one of the winners, in that your project is going to get visibility by people who really know what they're talking about and really know the ecosystem. So use that to your advantage. In the process, we met people who were just tangentially engaged, but they saw what we were doing, they liked it, and they've been able to be beneficial to us and us to them since then. So I'd say keep that audience in mind, and remember that this is very different than a VC pitch or a grant application or a hackathon. And so tailor it to your audience, not the time to use buzzwords, just explain it in an understandable way to people who know Stellar and can help you advance along the journey that you're already on.
That's great advice. Oh, go ahead, Markus.
Yeah, if I can add there, that was really good advice. But like to expand on it a little bit, it's also really helpful to go and talk to your audience. If you see people in the Stellar ecosystem that are probably involved in the Stellar community fund, and they are going to understand what you're doing and how it is going to impact the community, go just send them a message on Discord, on Twitter, on Telegram, and set up a meeting and get their thoughts on what you're doing and what your pitch to the community is, because they'll probably give you really good advice.
Awesome. Fred, anything to add to that? Love to hear your advice.
Yeah, I mean, to me, there's also now a dedicated Discord channel for that. So I think it's very important that you make yourself available in that channel, because there's obviously all the panelists are there. And then that's a good point to get in touch and answer the questions that are being asked.
Definitely. And to add on to that, I have one more question. What would be the best moment to submit a project? At what stage of development should someone submit? Thomas is asking this.
I think you can submit as soon as you have a clear roadmap forward, to be honest. I don't think you need to have a functional product yet, or even a demo, to be honest. We didn't really. As long as you have a clear plan for how you're going to build what you want to build and how are you going to use the money, your project's at the stage where you can submit it.
Awesome. Great answers.
I'd say just quickly, don't wait until you don't need help, because the funding is one thing, but again, there's so much advice that can come through the process that if you've already got all the answers, then this probably isn't the right place for you.
That's great to learn a bit more about your guidance. There's one last question, and actually that might be for me. Can I get funding to travel across the US to vlog with devs, artists, creators for stellar education? Well, let the community decide. So definitely, if you have an idea, to anyone, like submit it to the SCF. The community will decide if they want to fund you or not. I think you can think beyond something like, oh, you have to build a business in Stellar. You can do something like a hackathon style project. You can do work in community. You can build a full-fledged business. You can experiment with Stellar and try something new. You can set up an SDK. So there's really so many things. In any case, I would say submit to the SCF. If you don't get selected, you can always try again and grow with the SCF. So now let me go back from the questions. Since we're nearing the end of the session, I have one last question for each of you. How do you see your project scaling and have a broader reach into the future?
Yeah, you're muted, but I can answer for me at least. I think going into the future, our goal for Yield Blocks is for it to be integrated with every single non-custodial platform built on the Stellar network. It's really easy to do so. You don't have to deal with KYC. We'll help you create a revenue model using our product. And your users will be way better off because they can now lend and borrow using Stellar, and not just send payments. They have 10,000 times the utilities. So if you're building a non-custodial platform on Stellar, talk to us. We want to help you get integrated, and we want to help you build a stronger product with us.
Awesome. Tori?
Yeah. Leaf is on a mission to enable economic security for the stateless and excluded all over the world. And we're using Stellar to do that. Obviously, the benefit is that we don't have to be in every country physically in order to make that happen. So we're expanding our product base, looking at lending, looking at a light version for people who can't meet traditional identity requirements. And we're also expanding our geographic footprint, not just through our own technology, but with partnerships across other entities that are building on the Stellar ecosystem. So we're excited to do that. We would also love to be of help to anybody who is on that journey as well. We've been helped along the way with Stellar, and so if we can be of help to you, feel free to reach out. We're very accessible, would love to talk.
Awesome, I love that. Fred, any last thoughts? What are the next steps for Lightmint?
Yeah, I mean, 2021 has already been very great for Lightmint, but 2022 is really looking amazing. And I mean that, we've seen some major announcements, for example, recently with Facebook moving into the metaverse. And I think, what's interesting with this is that those ecosystems like the metaverse, they are open by design. And for example, on Facebook, Horizon, not Stellar Horizon, but what they are building in the metaverse, you can sideload any experiences. And that means for us, for example, that we have opportunities to connect artists, NFT galleries to these huge mainstream experiences, right? That all those projects are building now. And that has been unseen before. So this is definitely a move that we're going to make coming 2022. We have the flexibility and the funds now to make this happen. So we've already started to dig into the technology, and we are going to expand our market towards mainstream through this type of portals. So, that's the ultimate goal eventually, to move into mainstream. And that's what you can expect very much from Lightmint in 2022.
Wow, that's so exciting, and I look forward to really to learn more about how your companies are growing with the Stellar community as well. So thanks again, for being here with us today and share your unique experience and guidance. So to everyone who's listening, even though the submission phase of the current round of SCF is ending soon, you can still get involved. So on November 24th, we'll release the selected projects of this round and encourage everyone interested to participate into the discussion. You have the power to shape the next generation of Stellar-based companies. Visit communityfund.stellar.org and join the SCF Discord to learn more about their products, give feedback, and ask questions. And we are right on the dot. Thank you so much. And I'll give the word back to Justin.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.